Hi, and welcome to week 8 of English 1302. As you remember, we pushed the first quiz back by a week, so we're going to go ahead and push the second quiz back. Instead of taking that this week, we're going to take it during week 9. So that'll be Thursday. It'll be open Thursday and Friday from October 24th and 25th. I think that sounds right. But you still want to keep current on the reading assignments. Just because we pushed the quiz back doesn't mean we've pushed back the reading assignments also. So stay current on those reading assignments. I'll open up the poetry unit next Monday, or probably this weekend. Okay, I'm about halfway through grading your outlines, and a lot of people, not a lot, a few people struggled with that. I'm not exactly sure if they understand what an outline is, but I posted a good example. And so really, anytime you see an example from me, all you have to do is follow the example. What you have to do now is the final draft, which is due Sunday, October 19th, before 11:55 p.m. Please remember that late work is not accepted. So again, just so we're clear, as a reminder, you're going to focus on the short story Barn Burning by William Faulkner and read it carefully, read it several times, outline it, summarize it, really make sure you know it well. Then pick one of those rhetorical devices listed under the sheet called elements of formalism, like protagonist, antagonist, setting, style, character, irony, diction, tone, foreshadowing, theme. Pick one of those and just explain how it can help the reader to understand the story better, or at least understand the story differently. You're going to want to break it down into 3 paragraphs. Each one should start with a topic sentence, which is the main idea, which clearly supports the thesis, and the thesis needs to mention the name of the story and the type of rhetorical mode you're using, the vocabulary word you're using. And then topic sentence, then a quote from the short story. And don't forget, for an MLA, the in-text citation immediately follows the quote, and it has just the author's last name and the page number. That's it. There's not even a comma in there. Just Faulkner 8, and then a period after the parentheses, of course, and then 2 or 3 or 4 sentences that explain the context or how that quote supports the point you're trying to make, and that's about it. Of course, you want to have an introduction and a conclusion, and you have to have a works cited page. You also have to have a secondary source. So really only 2 of your 3 paragraphs are probably going to be about the short story. One of those 3, probably the first, will be about the rhetorical mode itself. You're probably going to find a book or a journal article that talks about formalism, or talks about symbolism, or talks about irony, and then pull a quote from that and then explain what it means. Then you have 2 paragraphs that explain the irony in Barn Burning. Not overly difficult, but you also don't want to wait till the last minute. So go ahead and get started on that now. And if you have any questions about it, please let me know. Okay, this week we're reading Jury of Her Peers, which is, it's not really an indictment of the American judicial system. It is an exploration of it. How do 2 women get to decide the fate of a third? The jewelry, I think you'll like it. The thing about jewelry is you have to remember that there's more than one interpretation possible. In fact, the form of literary criticism called deconstruction says explicitly that since we read this through our own lens, our own experience and interpretation, then we get to interpret this differently and still be correct, because there's no good answer to the story. When you read the story, you'll understand the question, but there's no good answer to that question depending on your experiences and what you see happening in the story. We also read the story of an hour. One of the key things in this short story, of course, is the setting. This story is set in the early 1800s, about 1810, which was sometimes called the Age of Men. And in the 1800s in England, men were expected to make all the decisions, to tell the wife what to do and what to think and what to wear and where to go and what to cook. And so they unburdened their wives by making all the hard decisions for them. that becomes problematic in our story for today. And then, of course, the yellow wallpaper. If you're familiar with postpartum depression, you probably recognize it pretty quickly, but the lady does go crazy, and you have to read this kind of carefully. But at the end of the story, she does kill her husband. So a lot of people would argue he probably deserved that. But anyway, read those stories carefully. I do encourage you to outline the stories, or to itemize the stories as you read through them, and that'll give you a good study guide for the quiz next week. Then after next week, we'll sit down and take a look, because obviously we're not going to get to the third quiz on the week after that. So we'll be rearranging the rest of the semester, which is moving rather quickly. I hope you're enjoying the reading assignments for this semester, and when questions come up, as they should, please let me know.